not on Facebook and
morning, Lord.
all over the country, all over the world, everywhere, every other day. And from August inflation, when you go to the market, you see different price rising.
Really a point of concern. This is what is leading to the inflation in different prices. Just like you rightly mentioned, today you're in the market, it's either you hear this is the price of goods. In fact, morning, afternoon, evening, the prices are quite different. In fact, immediately you finish pricing maybe a bag of rice right now, then you move to the next shop. So okay, let me see if this other shop is better, let me go back. The price has already, changed. And so you could see that I can even blame this to, I remember early the year where we had the adulterated fund. It contributed to some extent, because at the end of the day you could see that especially those operating on small and medium scale market businesses, you could know that this really affected them. We're still looking at Nigerian living, most Nigerians living below the $1 per day. Now you see that this is another thing we actually have to look at as a nation. We saw in our papers where we are trying to look into cashew. We saw Lagos being one of the greatest market. We saw oil being the highest in cotton production in Africa. You begin to ask questions that if we have all this in Nigeria, then what is the problem? Why are we still in poverty? Why are we still having inflation? Even though it's not just in Nigeria, it was even a problem even in Africa. Because we saw Malawi, we saw South Africa, we saw Ghana, and also Nigeria. Now you see that inflation is not just peculiar to only us, but then what can we do as a nation to see that we take ourselves out of inflation as it is right now? Because it's either we keep, crying over what is happening presently, or we have to go back and see what can we do. The federal government is planning to take away fuel subsidy from mid next year. So if you think about the danger that will impose on common Nigerians, if you're planning to do that, even though we know some people are living on this fuel subsidy because somebody somewhere is benefiting from it, but then what are we doing to see that we revive most of our domestic refineries that are lying idle there? What are we doing about it? We've been talking about the money that have been sent into the Ajaokuta steel mining. What have been done about that? We're still looking at unemployment is still the highest. We're still looking at the issue that about quite a huge amount of money is being paid to ghost workers. What is the government doing about that? Except we're able to address all these things one after the other, Lloyd, will still be going, and then this will keep increasing. Imagine the highest in the last 17 years from 2005. Now you know that a lot needs to be done. I think it's high time we stop blaming it was this administration that led to this, it is this government. You have to look at inwardly, what can I do since I am the government of the day presently? There's nothing you cannot do if the government is telling us that before December they're planning to do away with insecurity. Then you should be able to do something about inflation price also, because I believe that we have to look at how we can consume our own goods inwardly, stop depending on importation. We still have rice being imported, as little as even frozen chicken is being imported into the country. So as far as we don't start consuming our own locally made goods, even our cars, if we don't start using our own locally made cars, Lloyd, will keep going on inflation day in, day out.
The issue of Ukraine and Russia. Imagine if Nigeria was a country that produced wheat and the cereals that we can't import from that country. Right now, I think even if we talk about inflation, it will not be as high as it is right now, because we'll be able to export some of those things that right now people can't get from Ukraine and Russia. But because of the fact that we can't produce all these things, or not that we can't produce, but we are not producing them, means that we have to look up to other countries to get all these things. And like you said, the refineries, people are hoping that the Dangote refinery comes to start working and everything, and then it will increase some of the productions and all of that. But only one refinery at the end of the day will not give what we are expecting in this country. Because if you look at it now, we take crude oil, we export to the other countries, they refine it, we bring it back, and even at that, we are talking of oil theft and all of those issues that are coming up right now. So there are a lot of things that Nigeria needs to tackle when it comes to inflation. We have enough land, we have fertile land, we have the resources to be able to produce and manufacture some of these things that when we send them to other countries too, we will have money. It will add to our GDP. And then looking at some of these issues, we have the rising cost. A further breakdown of the CPI report showed that urban inflation stood at 20.95%, while rural inflation was 20.12%. Food inflation, on the other hand, also rose to 23.12%. And then there are some states in August 2022 that have all items inflation rates on year basis was highest. Talking about Ebonyi and Rivers states, Ebonyi had 25.33% and Rivers had 23.70%. Also, Bayelsa had 23.0%, while Jigawa, Borno, and Zamfara State recorded the slowest rise in headline year-on-year inflation. So we see that even in the country, there are some states that have high inflation, while some are not really as high as some of these states when you talk of year-on-year basis. And so I don't know what those particular states are doing to curb some the rise in inflation than other states, because I feel some states in Nigeria, when you look at them, they don't even produce anything. Like, they don't even really add up to the GDP of the country when you look at it at the end of the day. Some countries, like, they are commercialized, they have all it takes. If you talk about Lagos, you talk about Kano, you talk about even the Port Harcourt, you know, there are commercial hubs that they produce, they pay taxes and all of that. But sorry to say, most of these northern states down here, there are a little or nothing they do, as far as I've checked. And you look at some of these states that are oil producing states, there are agriculture, they can't really do much because of the kind of environment they have, the oil. And then, you know, once the oil drops on the land, it becomes, it renders the land useless. You can't plant plants and do all those things. But yet, that's not even an excuse, because I'm sure they have other parts that they can actually do agriculture in it. So the government has, or the right authorities have to look at all of these things. Like, all hands need to be on deck, that we see the issue of inflation reduces in the country, because a lot is happening. People are suffering day by day. When you check some homes, they can't even afford 1 square meal, not talk of 3. So it's becoming an issue, Sele.
Yeah, you know, when you were mentioning the oil producing states, and yet I can see that about Bayelsa and Rivers are part of the highest in inflation, you begin to ask, it's not about what you can produce, but how you can also use it to uplift your own, you know, your state. We've looked at state where we see the government keep, or the oil producing states said that they needed a certain percentage to be given to them, about 30%, but the government said they're going to give them just like 5%. Now you can look at that, you could say that definitely most of the people around that area begin to look at them. When last were they given scholarship? Amnesty is no longer there. We're still, just like you rightly mentioned, we're still looking at oil theft. We're still looking at issues like this that are coming up to even steal the wealth that we're still trying out with, the wealth we are trying to save for the country. Just like I rightly mentioned, if we can look at what we can do, we have the atmosphere that is needed. We have the land. What can we do? I think it's high time we come together as a nation and put our heads together and see what can we do to channel all this energy we have into what we have on the ground. Agriculture is really something. It's not about the manual or the normal one we normally do. How can we now go digital in looking at this agriculture? What can we do? I mean, when we're having about $1.something billion that can be realized in 2030 from cashew. Now you could realize how much wealth. We mentioned about $7 million that was lost to oil theft. Now you can see the money that will have been used to channel in one thing or the other. And then we are going to look at inflation. Look at the power sector. When last did you see constant electricity? We have about how many of our power plants they say they are lying idle. What is the government doing about that to make sure that there's electricity? Because if there's electricity, little or nothing will you do with fuel. All you need for it is either maybe for the cars or for something else. You actually reduce it. But then imagine when there's no electricity. Someone that is like, just like I said, the small scale businesses, someone that depends maybe on a barbing salon that he definitely needs to go get the fuel to have a gen so that he can work on that, and definitely he will increase the price. Because you cannot buy fuel maybe a liter at 300 naira and then you expect that your customers will not feel the pain at the end of the day. Okay, that adulterated fuel, ever since that affected transportation till date, most of the transport do not want to reduce the money because they feel they are comfortable. So how would they even
reduce the money when the per liter is still is not reduced? It's not what it was, was obtainable before. People are buying fuel now 200 and above per liter. So even if you tell them to reduce it because the adulterated fuel issue has passed, they won't, because it's still there. The pump price is still much that they can't really say, okay, from 100 naira now we can reduce it to 70. Some are even trying to add up So you see, all these things are, are really issues that, that the common Nigeria is struggling with. When we talk about the issue of these refineries, you know, some experts say they can privatize them, even if it doesn't cost much. It won't give the government much profits, but they should just privatize them so that they can be up and about, like people can revive them, and then we'll start doing all those things. I don't know how far that will go with the government, but then we're just hoping that something will be done, and then people would at least feel the impact that improvement based on the living condition in Nigeria is being revived or boosted. But still, we have the issue of Wike signs bill allowing women to inherit family properties. It's really an interesting one for me, because I know in some part of the country, even maybe some other cultures outside Nigeria, there are times that a woman will lose her husband, and at the end of the day she's left with nothing, and she has children to cater for. Probably she's not even working, and then the husband has left a lot of wealth for her, but the families of the husband might not allow her to inherit all those things because they feel, okay, probably she's not part of the family, or women are not entitled to inheritance. So I really see this as a welcoming one for me personally, because I've heard of a lot of women that have wallowed because of this kind of incident.
Yeah, you know, Lloyd, when you said that, I was really excited. I mean, when I saw this, because he's one among, I mean, I don't know other governors of other states what they have done in relation to making sure that women are given the opportunity. Because if you look at his administration, Wike, for one, he makes sure that for every local government, if a man is a chairman, the woman has to be the deputy chairman at the end of the day. She has to be the second in command, so that the woman can actually have a place. I mean, we've been agitating here that women should be given a place. How many seats do women have in the parliament? How many seats do they have? Not to even talk about in the other places. You can say that women are given little or nothing, even though it has been aligned as a woman. You end up getting married, and then your bidding is for your husband. But we fail to realize that women have so much to contribute to nation building. Because definitely, we should start from the family by giving the woman the inheritance to her husband, or to inheritance to whatever she has. At the end of the day, you're giving her the opportunity to show her leadership skill. And this, she can mature to using it even in her local government, to the state level, and even to the international world at the end of the day. So I feel that other governors also have to take a lead from that, because I was really excited seeing the news coming from Rivers State at a point like this, where people do not really give the woman, or her voice is being silent, or she's been looked as a second sex at the end of the day. But it's really an opportunity for the woman to also add up to what is happening in the nation. What can I do? We have lists of women that have done so much for Nigeria. We have the likes of Dora Agunye, we have the likes of Ngozi representing us, and so much more other women out there that have done so much. We can see them making Nigeria proud at the end of the day. So I believe that it will not just end in the family, but that will take this even to the society, because the woman has something she can give to nation building if only she's given the chance. No wonder we hear about the giving the girl child education at the end of the day. We've heard people saying that if you educate a man, you educate just him, but if you educate a woman, you educate a whole community at the end of the day. Because women are being known to be nurture, they nurture things, they're known to be caregivers. So at the end of the day, they don't just hold it within, but they want to say, what can I do to also make sure I impact the people around me? So I think this is the right step in the right direction coming from the Rivers State governor. And I hope that other governors in other states will also look into what they can do for the women in their own, you know, states at the end of the day.
Now, you know, the good part is that they can, because of this law that has been, the bill that has been signed now, you can even go to court and contest it if your rights are being infringed by your family, or the extended family. Because when you look at, just like you said, a woman is someone that nurtures, a caregiver and all of that. When you look at some of these families that the husband is no longer alive, and then the woman is not working, because most of these men that actually are well-to-do, they don't want their women to work, their wives to work, and then at the end of the day, the man is not there. He has wealth, but she doesn't have access to it because of one reason or the other, the culture and some of the things that some selfish interests of individuals. So this kind of thing, based on the law, you can contest some of these things in the court and say, okay, this is your right, and then if it goes well with everything, the court proceedings and all, you can have access to your husband's inheritance, which is very, very good. And then talking about the marginalization of women, especially in politics in Nigeria, I know there's this African country, I can't really remember the name, that has over the highest percentage of the parliament are women, which is good. I remember the president's wife, that she was clamoring for more women in politics and all of that. Even aside just the issue of inheritance, women need to be much more represented when it comes to politics, when it comes to the society, when it comes to a lot of different things that are happening in life, like in the country and even outside. When women are there, you will definitely feel the impact.
Yeah.
So, like, I think more of that should be put into cognizance, and then women should be out there too. Because sometimes when they bring some of these issues to women, they will say, no, we don't want to do this. We don't want to, let's leave it for the men. And then the men will always say feminist and feminism, all these things. We want to be like the men, but we just want the equal representation out there, so that we will not feel sidelined and all of that.
I know, Lloyd, and I think this won't just end in him signing this into law, but it will be follow up to be sure that this is actually implemented at the end of the day. We've had issue where a governor will write down what he wants. He has given the go-ahead, but then the implementation is another thing that will take time. We end up seeing one place or the other, hindrance, left, right, and center, some families being self-centered, or one thing or the other will come out, and then we see that that's not implemented. We saw that during the local government autonomy. After how many years, we kept sweating and saying we need the local government to be on their own. We need the local. It has been signed, but how many states have implemented that at the end of the day? Lots of the states are kicking against such thing. So you can say, I just hope that this will not just be the governor of Rivers State signed this, but then he will have some agency that will follow up to be sure that at the end of the day, what I have signed, even though he, for one, we can see someone that follow up at the end of the day, he leads it firsthand to be sure that thing, but he can't be everywhere. I remember there was a video we saw of a widow that was being tied and being beaten almost to the point of their wife, because they felt she was responsible for that. It was, I think, because of goodwill, people who snapped and people saw it, and at the end of the day, this is a result of that, because you have nobody to speak for you. You don't have anything to, lay hold and say, this is what I have to take care of my kids at the end of the day. So we hope that this won't just end in the paper, but then we'll see that being implemented at the end of the day.
We're hoping that something much more than this will even be done, and then people will not neglect this particular bill, and then at the end of the day, it's being thrown, swept under the carpet, because sometimes we're fond of doing that in this country. Some of these things that are binding by law, at the end of the day, you see things not happening as they should. So we're just hoping that this will be followed up, and then it will be to the benefit of the women at the end of the day. Yes, I'm not talking because I'm a woman, but then
you're talking because your voice can add up to the voice of other women.
Yes, I think it's necessary for that, because when you look at some of these issues, that they're really disheartening. They will just cause you a lot of emotional damage. So I think it's really necessary. Sarah, I don't know if you have something for viewers before we wrap up the show.
Well, I know it's a weekend, so just go out there, be the best that you can be. We'll just keep our fingers concerning the hearing of federal government and also ASU. Whatever the outcome will be, we just hope to hear more of that. So thank you so much for keeping the date with us.
And thank you for being on the show with me, Sarah. To our viewers, you can join us next week on Monday as we bring you another fresh episode of Nigeria Now. And from all of us at Ekwa Television, we say happy weekend and have a good day. Bye-bye.